November 11th, 2022, Friday. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. Book of Psalms, Psalm 55 and verse 22. A heavy burden upon a person makes him to be very much bent down or sink under such burden or heavy load. If that load is upon the heart, then it would be definitely very heavy and difficult to bear. On the other hand, what a great relief a person experiences if such load is taken off from that person. In this psalm, that is Psalm 55, we observe how it feels like to a person when a heavy load of burden is laid upon the heart, and also what a great relief it would give when such load or burden is taken off from that person. Moreover, in this psalm, we also observe how the burden or the load of care can be taken away. It was during Absalom's rebellion that David experienced such a heavy load upon his heart. As David wrote in this psalm, that is Psalm 55 and verse 3, the load or the burden that was cast upon him was iniquity, wrath, and hatred. Such burden of reproach, iniquity, wrath, and hatred was not laid upon David by his enemy. Otherwise, he would have easily borne it, as he wrote in verse 12. But it was cast upon him by a man who is equal to him and who was his guide. We read in verses 12 and 13, "For it was not an enemy that reproached me, then I could have borne it, neither was it he that hated me, that did magnify himself against me, then I would have hid myself from him. But it was thou, a man mine equal, my guide and mine acquaintance." The person in these verses seems to be Ahithophel, who was a guide to David, now became counselor for Absalom. When such form of burden was laid upon the heart of David by Absalom and Ahithophel, in the form of reproach, iniquity, hatred, and wrath, David's heart was sore pained. He wrote that pain in verse 4, which reads, "My heart is sore pained within me, and terrors of death are fallen upon me. Fearfulness and trembling are come upon me, and horror hath overwhelmed me." While facing such terror and bearing such a heavy burden, David wrote in verse 22, which is our today's Bible portion, "Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved." While telling these words to David, when he wrote in this psalm, he is teaching us also the same truth. Moreover, he teaches in this psalm as to how we can cast that burden upon the Lord. He says in this psalm that he cast that through the prayer, as we see in verse 1, 16 and 17. May we therefore cast our burden upon the Lord by the means of prayer, as David had done whenever we are carrying the heavy burden of load upon our hearts. Amen.